Hey, welcome back to the Chord by Chord series. Today I'm going to show you how to connect 1 to 1/6, a root position chord to its first inversion. Sometimes composers want a chord to last just a bit longer, but without sitting still. One of the simplest ways to do that, move between a root position chord and its first inversion, like C and C over E. The bass leaps up a third and boom, the chord changes, but its function stays the same. There's a name for this, prolongation, when a chord's function continues across multiple harmonies, even though the notes shift. Think of it like stretching out a thought without starting a new sentence. There are three main ways to connect 1 to 1/6, and the good news, they all work in most situations. Let's start with the classiest, and the one that introduces a key theory term, voice exchange. The bass leaps from the root to the third, so we have another voice leap from the third to the root. That's voice exchange, when two voices swap notes. In this example, our bass and soprano handle the voice exchange while the inner voices stay put. This gives us beautiful contrary motion in the outer voices and a doubled root in both chords. It's efficient, elegant, and should usually be your go-to. We generally prefer to double the root in triads, and this method accomplishes that beautifully. Method 2. Parallel tenths, or parallel thirds. Think of the bass leap as a melody. One of the easiest ways to harmonize a melody is with parallel thirds, which we call tenths when they're more than an octave apart. So, while the bass leaps from 1 to 3, another voice moves in parallel tenths from 3 to 5. The other voices stay put. It sounds great, but now we're doubling the fifth in the 1/6 chord instead of the root. Not a mistake, but something to be aware of. Method 3. Stationary upper voices. Don't move them at all. It's the easiest method. No motion in the upper voices. But it's also the dullest, and we end up doubling the third, which is usually the weakest choice. Most people find it less pleasing because of how the overtones clash. Now, doubling the third isn't automatically wrong unless it breaks another rule. For instance, in a 5 to 5/6 progression, we avoid doubling the third because it's the leading tone, which we never double. So, if your goal is just to finish your theory homework without making mistakes, all three methods are safe bets. But if your goal is to write better sounding music, or something stylistically appropriate, then avoid stationary voices and doubling the third when possible. Voice exchange and parallel tenths are both more interesting and sound better. Now, we could stop here. This is the Chord by Chord series, and we've connected 1 to 1/6 three different ways. But remember, that 1/6 is going somewhere, so let's plan ahead. Let's try connecting 1/6 to 4 and see which options work best. When we use voice exchange and move the voices as little as possible, we get a 4 chord with a doubled fifth. Not wrong, but maybe not ideal. Parallel tenths gets us to a 4 chord with a doubled root. That's solid. Stationary voices? This one gets awkward because the voice on scale degree 3 can't go to 4 because the bass already does. Clearly, parallel tenths is the winner here. Now, let's connect 1/6 to 5. Voice exchange works beautifully, fully stepwise with a doubled root. Parallel tenths leads us to a 5 chord with a tripled root, which is not wrong, but usually not what we want. Stationary voices, fully stepwise and a doubled root, technically fine. But if voice exchange sounds better and gives us better doubling in all the chords, why not use it? 1 to 1/6 is a common move, and 1/6 is probably the most common first inversion chord that you'll see. So get used to looking ahead, especially when you've got flexible options like this. Today we looked at 1 to 1/6 in C major, but this works the same way in minor keys, and in reverse. You can connect 1/6 to 1 using the same techniques. These approaches also work with any root position chord and its first inversion, especially 4 to 4/6, 5 to 5/6, and 2 to 2/6. The key is to pick the method that leads to the best doubling in the second chord and connects it best with the chord after it. Not all progressions are this flexible. Some are black and white, with only one or two viable options. In the next video, we'll look at one of those using a first inversion 5 chord with the bass on the leading tone. And yeah, that one doesn't give you too many choices. Check it out.